Hi, and welcome to my podcast and vlogcast. My name is Ali Hart, and today I have Amy Ashe with me, and she is going to talk about her experience with graphic recording. Isn't that right? It's the right term, isn't it? Yeah. Amy was one of my students as well, and it's lovely to have her. So, the Hindsight series is all about just people sharing their story. If you follow me for a while, you'll know that I just love learning about people, knowing what makes them tick, and especially in a creative space. So it is lovely to have you, Amy.
Thank you, Ali.
Do you want to tell us a little bit? You can summarize it in a few sentences if you want, just what it is you do. What creative space do you hold?
Okay, so as Ali says, I'm Amy Ashe. My brand is Amy Ashe Art, and I am an illustrator. So I love to add colourness and quirkiness to the world. I'm also a painter, so I paint landscapes, cityscapes, and animals. And as well as that, I'm a graphic recorder too. So graphic recording, for those of you who may not be familiar with that, it's the process of capturing complex messages and complex information and putting that into visuals that people can relate to and that are simplified. So then people can understand things better.
Brilliant. And yeah, for whenever I met Amy, whenever I met you, I didn't know what it was either. And then, so we were able to kind of come up with that a little bit more of a way of, as you say, people don't know what it is. So you're making something in simple terms, and that's kind of one of your messages now, isn't it really?
Yeah, no, definitely, because sometimes whenever we see loads of information, we just turn off because we don't want to read through loads of information. Whereas if you see illustrations, you're more likely to look at it and see what it's about, see what's happening, and it's more so it's really applied whenever it comes to different meetings, conferences, and events.
Yeah.
And then those types of illustrations can be used in resources as well.
Great. And that's where you find, isn't it, where the so the painting's one element, and then the little quirky graphics are you had cards, which I got for Christmas, and people loved my Christmas cards, and they're fun with a little bit of slogan underneath them, and then the graphic recording. So that's you're finding, so for people who are thinking about stepping out, did you use the contacts that you had, or how do you find work comes along for those different areas?
Yeah, I think it's a real mix, Ali. Sometimes the work comes from people that you know.
Yeah.
On social media, I try to increase my presence. So there has been work came from social media, like some Instagram as well, Facebook, which has been really great. And then sometimes it's just people that know other people, and that's where your connections then come from.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you've got to here? What where you're from, schooling, different things you've studied, or your path to get to where you are now?
Yes, no problem. So originally from Ballymena, as you can probably tell from the accent, there's no getting away from it. So there's not. Grew up in Ballymena and went to local primary school, Camp Hill Primary School. Went on to Bally Community High School, where I studied art. For me, that was one of my big passions was painting art. I loved just being whenever you got your timetable, I knew when my art classes were, and that's what excited me. So I just loved that subject at school. And then from there, at that time that school had stopped doing A levels. Okay. So I had to move to another school to be able to progress with A levels. So I did that, and again, art then featured in A levels too, along with business and geography.
Right.
So so that was my schooling, and then I went to Jordanstown, went to university in Jordanstown, and that at that time in my life I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do. Excuse me. I guess sometimes you hear from people that try and steer you down a particular path, that maybe, oh well, if you're going to be an artist, how are you going to sustain your income and things like that. So there was a lot of things put me off going on and doing art.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought I need to be doing a subject that I can potentially get a job in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I went. So in hindsight now, if I had different careers advice, or if I could speak to myself now, I would probably make a very different decision to what I did at that time. But we are where we are, and we're here for a reason.
Fun as well. Yeah, that's the thing. It's I think as well, like when were you in school then? You're younger than me.
So. Oh, that's going back I'm gonna say I'm thinking, well, I'm 31 now, so we're going back
2000s, early 2000s.
yeah.
You know, back then it was different. I think it's changed so much now, hasn't it? The advice, I imagine, is different. Even the way the subjects are separated as well in school. So I guess it's, as you say, we are where we are, and it's good because you never know whether you would have still fallen into a teaching role or something, because that's often what happened with the art. It's like you're not forced into, but encouraged, because I guess a lot of that comes from a place of fear. People are worried that you're not going to get a job as well. Great. Sorry. So that was you in Jordanstown, and then did you go straight out to work then?
So so I did public relations at Jordanstown.
Okay.
And then after that it was finding work. So I worked for a training organisation, and it was at that time it was looking more their marketing side of things in terms of marketing their training programs. So that's what I did for probably the first year of that job. But it was also working, that job involved working with young people as well.
Okay.
So I then kind of more fell into that area because it was an area that I am more of a kind of interested in terms of supporting people.
Yeah.
So it was very much around supporting young people. Okay. And then from that I moved to a youth organisation, and then where I am now as a youth related job. So that's where my path had taken me, and then obviously now I'm exploring. Art is always featured in the background of all those jobs and all those positions. It's always been a passion that I've had, and I've just loved to draw, and I've explored different types of media, and it's just something I love to do.
Yeah, and even sorry to interrupt you there, but the graphic recording was something that you were able to tell me one of our first meetings. You were saying, oh, well, I made a booklet, or I made, so they appreciated your skills and valued that unique side of what you do, didn't they?
And I guess in terms of value, whenever you're talking about the contacts as well, some of those contacts have came from where I have worked.
Yeah.
Because there's different organisations there that run different conferences and different workshops and things like that, and they want a way of capturing the information visually. So that's kind of where that idea originally came from.
Good. It's lovely actually to hear you speak so confidently too, because that really has grown, I would say, since our first meeting.
I would say so, and I think that comes down to, in terms of lots of more self-belief probably in myself as well, which is great, because I think whenever you have that, it allows you to do so much more.
Definitely believe in the dream. I always like to say, I'm the wings waiting. And then tell me as well, so what do you, is there one that you prefer, one of the, because I was listening to a podcast, and I mentioned this last week actually too, about multidisciplinary and how that there's so much strength in that because you're under one umbrella of creativity. So is there one that you prefer, one of the elements of the work? Because I see the beauty in the paintings. With me being a painter, and I know I'd send you a palette knife and you're able to play with that and still make something beautiful. And then the graphics is so different from me because a lot of it's drawn. So give an example of what, like even an avocado, right? I loved your little avocados. Tell us a little bit about one of those drawings, which seems so simple. And even when I asked you, I remember you said, oh, but I just used another barrel or black pen and a blue pen. And it's not something I do. So tell us a little bit about even one of those, how they start, and which is your favorite, if you want.
Okay, I love painting and illustrating. It's really, really hard to decide what one I prefer. And I guess in terms of the illustrations part, I hadn't it really came about and it came into its own during lockdown.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, it was really about lockdown was an opportunity for me to think, how can I interpret this situation in a positive way? And how can I try and share that positivity with other people? So one of the ways of me doing that was through my illustrations. So I thought that I would illustrate just day-to-day things that was happening in lockdown. This was an experience that nobody else has ever had before. And it was things that people could really relate to. And sometimes made them laugh too. And that was the whole reason, the purpose of it, was to create a bit of positivity in a situation which none of us knew what was going on, and hopefully make people smile. And that's that I called those illustrations hashtag new normal art.
Yes, new normal art,
And I guess with being in lockdown, I would be quite a sociable person. So, you know, and I love meeting up with friends and family. And that time I had a lot more time on my hands, and I thought, how can I use my art to help others?
Yeah. And also tapping into the new normal. That was the tagline, wasn't it? Really, that's become our lockdown thing. And then, so in terms of the physical act of drawing those, what way do you, how you start with an idea? So that was your idea, and then executing it.
So it was just really sitting down with a sketch pad. I would have drawn out just with pencil different ideas.
Yeah.
I would have thought, how do I lay these out on the page so it flows? Yeah. And then I would have went over that with pen and then marker.
Yeah, and that's what's lovely, isn't it? Seeing the blend of the different elements of your business, how the painting still comes into that sort of element of, because it's not just all green. You'll use a few different shades, and there'll be a little bit of a
it's all 3D. Different tones as well, just add different shades in and highlight different areas of the piece and drawing as well. But no, I love, like, I could just sit there, you totally get lost in it. Totally get lost in the moment, and you're just drawing.
And that's what's lovely as well with you. You're a perfect example of someone whose brand reflects them. And the more I got to know you as well, you remember when at the very start, whenever we look at, you know, personal branding and what it is you put out into the world, your humor is definitely part of that, and it's great.
Well, I think it's important that you are your brand. So in terms of what you come across, that is who you are as a person. So for me, that's important. But
and people buy from people, you know.
What was that, sorry, Ali?
People buy from people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People connect with you. And so what about, we've just been asking people about hopes and dreams. Now, some people have said just continued contentment. Some people have talked about, you know, travel or big dreams for the business. I know about certain dates in terms of the business for you, but even beyond that, is there something, because I think lockdown makes you, my husband and I were talking last night about things and about life, and I said to him, is there anything else you'd actually want apart from traveling? I mean, I'd love to travel and see friends. And he was like, no, that and seeing friends would be the one thing. But tell us about your hopes and dreams. They can be as wacky as you want.
I suppose in terms of dreams, I have quite a few different dreams. Quite a lot, actually, so I'm not going to go for all of them. We're here all day.
I'm glad you have dreams. That's good.
But I think, like, for me, in terms of being an artist and an illustrator, my dream would be that people see my work and they know straight away that's Amy Ashe that has done that piece of work. And if that can happen locally and nationally, that would be amazing. That would be brilliant. That would be great. If I was able to achieve that. So that would be my dream in terms of being a creative and being an artist. I love to travel. So a dream would have to be to explore more of the world, in particular Southeast Asia and South America.
Amazing. And for people who are listening on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, Amy has this map behind her and all these class photos of her and her husband and their travels. So travel's definitely on your list as well then.
Travel's a big one. For me, it brings about so much inspiration as well.
Agreed.
But experience different cultures, different foods is up there with the best. But it's just something that I love to do. So those would probably be my two main ones. My ultimate one would be packing everything up, buying a Volkswagen camper van, and just traveling everywhere and painting while I go.
Fab. And the thing is, you'll be able to do when that happens, Amy. Because of now, lockdown's even forced everything more online, and you'll be able to do all those graphic recordings and send them through, even if you're in New Zealand or.
And I think the good part of this experience for everybody has been looking at different ways of working and seeing how much work we can actually do online.
I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about, and now the dog has joined me, they were talking about how even concerts are going to change, football games, live games, there'll be an element of that will be online. And although this has been really hard and such a big adjustment, I think that could be a really powerful thing. I'm even thinking about it for my own you know, future of my own business and online. This week we got tickets to I bought tickets to the Irish Times online festival, and it was makes me sound very cultured, doesn't it? And it was 5 days long, 5 evenings. Now I only really wanted to tap into 3 of those, and also one ticket meant that Michael and I could both watch it. But I tapped into that, and it was brilliant, and it was worth for those three, because I said to mine, we would never see these Dara O'Brien and different comedians that we would never get to see. Some of my favorite journalists that write for the paper. That was something that I felt really happy and privileged to be a part of. So you're right, we really have been. It's changed how the world's going to be after this, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, back off technology. Is there anything you're reading at the minute? I'm asking everybody that.
I'm not a big reader, have to admit.
That's okay. That's all right.
That I've always been meaning to try to get into, but it just hasn't really worked. But saying that, I'm actually, because I thought you could possibly ask this question about reading, and so I've literally just started this book here, and it's the Coach's Case book. So I have been doing coaching on my coaching training. So it looks at different case studies and how coaches approach different situations.
Don't you mean football? Don't you mean
no, like in terms of life coach.
Amazing, right? Because there's one that life coaches use that is linked to sport as well.
Okay.
So that one's called the Coach's
Case book.
I thought I recognized it. Brilliant. So you've done that as well. That's amazing. Have you done that since I last saw you?
Yes. So
but again, another beautiful element
and things like that. So
another like really authentic element of what you do as well. You're talking at the start about people and working with people and young people, and that has always been there. And I remember we were talking about if you were doing the art full time, you don't want to lose that. So that is fab.
So it's really, really interesting, and it's very much around like looking at that approach in terms of whenever people are maybe in those situations where their experience is something negative, is trying to take them back to that positive experience that they've had whenever they've done something well and
Absolutely. And that brings me on to my last question about fear as well, because I remember it was Paul McKenna talked about that with fear, and how if you revisit like one of the most beautiful, magical, peaceful moments, and for me it was the birth of my children, and that sounds insane, but I actually loved birth. And so even on a plane, if you're scared, you're taking yourself back to those joyful moments. So how would you deal with fear on a business level, even with what you're saying you've learned there through the coaching? What would your advice be?
I think with fear, it's trying to not let it stop you from doing something. And that's a big thing, because in terms of trying to overcome that fear, it can be massive. I know whenever we were doing our mentoring sessions, Ali, I had different fears I listed down, and it's been so great because I've looked back at those, and those have really, really eased. And that, for me, that's been brilliant. And that's obviously down to you as well. But because I know some of those was around in terms of not maybe having run out of inspiration, maintaining that consistency and discipline. And for me, I've worked through both of those to see, well, how can I continue to be inspired? And there's ways I've come up with for that. And it's the same as around consistency and discipline. How can I prevent that from being one of my fears and manage that better? And that has all came through like the planning. So at the start of the year, I thought I'm going to reflect on what I did last year in terms of Amy Ashe Art. What did I do well? What there is I need to improve on, and then plan ahead. So I feel that has allowed me to then reduce those fears.
Brilliant.
And I think it's even because I was trying to think there of another example when I felt fearful as well, even outside of Amy Ashe Art and my business, and it would probably be when I did a skydive.
We talked about this. The thought. Yes. Okay. Tell me. Yes.
It's sheer fear that there's no. I'm not going to let on I wasn't scared, because I was proper scared.
Didn't you do it with a friend as well? Were you saying, was it your friend?
I actually did too. So I did one whenever I was a lot younger, and that was actually one of my own.
Okay.
And I think just whenever you're talking about fear, you can tell that fear does increase with age. Because at that point in height, whenever I look back at that, I was like, not 1 ounce of fear. Whenever I went to do it a couple of years ago, absolutely terrified, and I was attached onto somebody then too, so it was a tandem. But I wanted that buzz, that adrenaline, that buzz, and I knew, well, I need to do that to be able to get that.
Yeah.
So I was like, fight through it and do it.
Would you do one now?
Yeah, I would.
And that, I guess that's just about, it's facing it, as you say, to get the other side, to get that buzz, you need to step into it. That's really brilliant. And is there any other final thoughts you want to share on social media or about projects that you have ongoing at the minute or anything?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of my social media, I've been paying a lot of attention to it because there's such a massive audience in terms of who you can reach out to with your art. So Instagram's been a big focus for me, and then also my website too. So I have my website up and running now, which I was very excited about.
Super.
So I'm continuing to upload my paintings to that. And then as well as that, in terms of the planning side of things, one of the things I have coming up is for Mother's Day, I've created a range of prints.
Brilliant.
So those will be going on my website.
That's March, isn't it?
Very soon, yes.
Oh, good. And same prints of the, I'd seen there were city prints and different things like that, or do you mean prints of the graphics, or?
So these are completely separate.
Oh,
so
lovely.
This is something I've been working on over the past month, and they are, I haven't one handy, or I would have showed you, Ali. It's very much, it's about it's capturing a mum with her child.
Lovely.
Whether that's with, it could be a wee baby, it could be a mum that's pregnant, it could, or mum to be, should I say? It could be a mum taking her kids to school. So those are pen illustrations. So they're done with a biro, and then they're done with grey markers to add the highlights and the shading.
With grey markers.
Yeah,
lovely. Great. I can't wait to see those.
Yeah, so I'm excited to launch those because I say, in terms of the planning side of things, that's something I want to focus on, and I want to get my art out earlier whenever it comes up to different events and things like that. So I currently have 9 of those, and then alongside that I've also done 5 mini illustrations.
Super.
So those are mum related as well. So I'm excited to.
Yeah,
so they're very bright and quirky, whereas other ones are more muted tones.
Yeah, and soft. They seem a bit softer. That's great. Oh, brilliant. That's so good to hear. There's so much strength in planning, isn't there? And knowing that the things are seasonal, that they just brilliant. And also it's exciting that we don't know what those are like yet, which is great.
Yeah. So I have my town collection, which I launched just there at Christmas time, and is my prints of Belfast.
I love the pictures you had of you in the area with the painting as well.
Yes.
The print, that's fab.
So gorgeous. Johnny and I went into town and took a few pictures.
And the quiet streets, it's mad, isn't it?
It was so quiet. That was a Sunday morning. We went into Belfast, and you just had the whole place to yourself.
I know. It's crazy. Well, thank you. It is so inspirational to talk to you and to see you just come to life as well, which is lovely. And I love seeing your work. I love seeing any of my mentoring students pop up, because I just feel so proud and so privileged to have been a small cog in the journey to get there. So keep going. I can't wait to see you smash all those dreams. And where can people find you then if they are looking for Amy Ashe Art?
So they can find me www.amyasheart.co.uk, which is my website. And they can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And that is Amy Ashe Art. So it's Amy_Ashe_art.
And Ashe with an E.
Ashe with an E, so ASHE.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you. And yes, keep going. Thank you, everybody, for listening as well. I feel really happy to be able to share all of the stories of people with you, and hopefully that this has inspired you to keep going and to keep stepping into fear, skydiving, whatever it is that you need to get the buzz from. Mine's actually open water swimming at the minute. I need to get back into that. But thank you for listening, and I will see you on the other, and for watching. I'll see you on the other side.